Impact Revolution channel. Thank you so much for coming. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for the invitation.
No, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. So, Joan, normally we start with a couple of personal questions so the audience
Mhm.
knows you a bit better, and then later we can go to more professional interview like questions. That okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So, if you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow, Joan, where it will be and why?
Uh, I'm an island girl in my heart. So
Okay.
I would want to wake up on a beach somewhere. Of course, Antigua and Barbuda, where I'm from, has the best beaches,
Uh-huh.
but
Sure.
there are also other lovely beaches throughout the Caribbean. So any Caribbean island on a beach, I'm good.
All right. I recommend you San Andres, Colombia. If you haven't been there yet, I recommend it. It's very nice.
Okay, I'll put it on my
Yeah.
list of places to go.
Yeah, it's my favorite islander for now, for now.
Okay.
All right. Great. Now this is a different question that I normally ask. However, I feel like if
Hmm.
you had all the money in the world, Joan, what would you do?
Wow. All the money in the world.
Uh,
Well, first off, I'm going to visit that beach that you just told me about in
all right.
Colombia.
Definitely. Okay,
So,
cool.
travel would be high on my priority.
Mm-hmm.
And what else would I do? I would bring my family together because all of us, because it's a big family and people are
Uh-huh.
living in different countries. And so
Sure.
we haven't all been in the same place for a long time. And my nieces and nephews are grown now.
All right.
So I think I would fly us all somewhere exotic
Uh,
and have an extended vacation.
Nice. That's cool. All right, very good. Thank you so much. So, I see that you have a lot of experience in HR and you've been also working for the association there, the official of the government in
Mhm.
Barbados. And I wanted to ask you, Joan, what is your main lessons learned about how effectively lead HR?
Ah. Well, I would say a couple of lessons really, because it's hard to
Uh-huh.
pin it down to just one.
Sure.
But the first thing that I would say as HR practitioners, it's important for us to understand the business, whatever
Mm-hmm.
business it is, whether it's government or you're in the private sector, or even if
Mm-hmm.
you're in the third sector, community organization. It's important to understand the purpose of the business, how it works, because only then can we truly show up as strategic business partners who add value and can help
Mm-hmm.
the organization to deliver on its vision and mission. So,
Mm-hmm.
first up, understand the business.
Love it.
Next one would be understand the people. Because at
Mm,
the end of the day, it's all about getting things done with and through others. And so you have to meet the people where they are and then help them to get to where they need to be. And
mm,
that's something that if you're pressed for time, if you're working in a chaotic environment where things are changing rapidly, it can be real easy to get caught up with just the tasks and
mm,
not pay attention to the people.
sure.
But there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if
Uh,
you want to go far, take others with you. And
Definitely.
so
I
it's
know.
important to take the time to get to know and understand the people as
Uh-huh.
well as the business to be optimally impactful as an HR practitioner.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for sharing. That's beautiful. And regarding the people, because I like the HR, and I'm a coach as well myself,
Yeah.
what are the best practical tips that you could share with us in your experience that has been more effective in order to help them this transition where they are in this moment to the later on, to where you want them to go, right? For the business.
Yeah. And
Mm,
it start with why, right? Simon
mm,
Sinek, he has
yeah.
explained to us so beautifully in terms of the importance of a why. The
Mm,
thing is, though, that the why is not universal,
mm,
right? So you'll need to be able to understand individually what will resonate with the people that you're dealing with. So the
Mm,
organization, of course, has a vision and a mission, so you know what the organizational purpose is. But for that to be truly motivational for the people within the organization, we need to make it relatable. How is it relevant to them? How does it
mm,
tie in to what they want to accomplish? I think of my preferred definition of motivation is an inner drive to satisfy some unmet need. So my
mm,
inner drive will be different than your inner drive. So the
mhm,
thing that will motivate me won't necessarily motivate you.
mm,
And
mm,
so, if we're going to lead people and get them to show up in a way that is truly engaged, where they will give you that discretionary effort, is to understand and to be able to communicate to them in a way that is personal, that ties into their why, to their motivation, so that they will then feel inspired to be a part of what you're doing.
I love it. It makes a lot of sense. It's the intrinsic motivation that we also share in our programs, and it's about connecting the inner values of each person
Right.
with the values and purpose of the company, right? And that's better than any external or extrinsic motivation, right? Or
Absolutely.
compensation or that. Very
And
good. Yeah.
especially with the younger folks that we have in the workforce now, they more so than,
Definitely.
even the millennials, and for certain the baby boomers. I mean, those who, the Gen Z folks or Gen X folks, they want something that has personal meaning, that
Yeah.
aligns with their values. And if you can't do that, if you can't deliver that, they have no qualms about moving on.
That's right. Yeah, they had less patience, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
In that sense. Okay, very good. Good point. And I normally ask this at the end, but I wanted to ask you now because I feel like Joan. So I hope you forgive me. If you could leave a message to the whole world, what it would be?
Wow. I choose to believe, and
Hmm.
I do this with my coaching clients.
Okay.
I choose to believe that we all can accomplish anything as long as we believe it,
Oh,
right? And
yes.
the reason that that is so important to accept and choose, because it's a choice, because you can choose to believe something else,
Mm,
right? Because there's a saying, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
that's right. Yeah.
And I encounter this a lot with my coaching clients,
Mm,
is a lot of self-doubt,
mm,
imposter syndrome, self-limiting beliefs. It may be something that it might have been a teacher when we were, just coming up, that said something that eroded our confidence, and we
mm,
carry that around. And so
mm,
it's such an amazing gift to be able to give someone the choice of believing in their
mm. I lost you. Hello? Choice.
on anyone is to say, choose to believe.
I'm losing you for some reason. I don't know why. If it's me,
Oh,
Joan. Yeah, can you hear
yeah,
me?
I'm here. Are
Yes,
you
I'm
hearing me
sorry.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but I don't know what happened in a few seconds. So, what is the last message? Is choose to believe something like this, or what
Choose
is
to believe in your capacity to accomplish that which you want to accomplish.
in your
Have the
capacity?
self confidence. If I could, just magically give a gift to everyone, it would be the gift of self confidence. Because once we have that, then the sky's the limit.
That's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. I share that with you. Yeah, it's something that we coaches and people who work in this field in the emotional intelligence understand. However, it's challenging, right? To get people to see this, right? And in your experience, I was wondering what has been the most effective way, right, to get this past of those limiting beliefs, right? What is?
Mhm. Great question. And there are a couple of things. And I'm going to start first with a visualization exercise
Mm-hmm.
because the way the neurochemistry is just so amazing in terms of how our brains work. And our brains cannot make the distinction between an actual live experience and the memory of an experience. Our
Yeah.
bodies respond as if we're actually having the experience. And so
Yeah.
we can leverage that. So I typically will ask a coaching client to remember a time when they were successful, when
Mm-hmm.
they did something that they were really proud of. And it could be something that happened for them privately, or it could be something that happened in a public forum. And I
Uh-huh.
have them not just remember it, but visualize. So, where
Live it.
were you? What were you wearing? What were you doing? What was the day like? Was it hot? Was it cold? Were you inside? Were you outside? And I invite them to see it as if they're watching a movie
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and take note of everything. And then ultimately to step into that version of themselves on the screen. So they're no longer on the outside looking at it, but they step into it. And in
Uh-huh.
that way, they experience the same feelings, whatever those feelings were of euphoria, of pride, of joy.
Uh-huh.
And I have them sit in that experience and
Mm-hmm.
just let those feelings come
Uh-huh.
over them. And then I tell them whenever you're feeling insecure, you're doubting yourself, repeat that visualization.
Mm-hmm.
First see it, then step into it and feel what it feels like for you to be successful, for you to be joyful, for you to feel confident and capable and powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can summon up those feelings whenever you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like anchor it, right? Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And so that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's interesting this imagination that we have, the power of visualization, that we can imagine good things and bad things as well, right?
Right. So if you have the choice, it's completely within your control whether
Yeah,
you imagine, you visualize good things or bad things. Why not choose to
yeah,
visualize good things?
totally, totally. All right, very good. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what are the practices you do or you practice any for yourself? Is there any practice or your favorite practice that you do in terms of emotional intelligence, coaching, and all that?
Yeah. So self awareness, of course,
Uh-huh.
is the foundation for
Mhm.
emotional intelligence. And as Aristotle said, self awareness is the beginning of wisdom. It doesn't guarantee you wisdom, but you
Mm,
certainly can't be wise without having that
mm,
self awareness. So I like to spend time in just reflecting on
uh-huh.
experiences that I've had, things that I've done, to just spend time reviewing what would have happened. How did I show up in the moment? Was that the best possible version of myself? Did I
Yeah.
accomplish what I wanted to accomplish? And
Mm,
another way to augment my own introspection is to actively solicit feedback. So, for
mm,
example, a few weeks ago, I spoke I was one of the keynote speakers at a conference, and a colleague who was there, I asked her to pay particular attention so that she could give me the feedback afterwards in terms of how I can continue to improve and hone my craft. And
very
so,
good.
being open to receiving feedback, soliciting that feedback, and
Mm.
then using it to help in my growth and development. That's something that's really important.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. And I can see that you are very profound. I really like the last message that you shared, Joan. I was wondering, what is your why in your case?
Oh, my why, it's about service.
It,
And even though over my career, I've had multiple careers, they're always about service. So
uh-huh.
my why is about helping others to maximize their potential. And as I
Uh-huh.
mentioned before, I choose to believe that people can do whatever it is they set their minds to doing. but
Uh-huh.
there sometimes are obstacles. Maybe they don't know how yet. Maybe they don't have the confidence yet. There may be self limiting beliefs that they have. So, through my coaching, through my consulting, my commitment, through my teaching, my commitment is to help others to maximize their potential by helping them to gain confidence, helping them to acquire knowledge, skills, and
Uh-huh.
abilities,
Uh-huh.
and to
Great.
have courage.
Yes, courage. Courage is important. I was wondering, because I had a discussion yesterday, and they asked me my why as well, and
Mhm.
how it was, or what made me get to this point, right? This change of mindset, or
Right.
because I was an engineer consultant, and then later, I had to do coaching or whatever, and it was an experience in my case, that I had,
Mhm.
and I was wondering, did you have something similar, or when was the moment you say, I want to do this, I want to serve people, I want to help people to,
Ooh.
yeah,
So, like I said, I was always committed to service, and I just didn't know like how exactly that would pan out. So, I taught for a while. I
uh-huh,
worked in healthcare for a while, and I think now, because I'm living my best life at this point in time with the coaching work that I'm doing, still teaching. I think I'll always be, an educator at heart. So it's just because of the impact that others have had on my life.
uh-huh.
I want to pay it forward
All right, cool.
because I have been blessed enough to have people in my life who chose to believe in me even before I believed in myself.
Mm, that's exactly
And
the story I share, yeah. Okay,
really,
yeah, it's something, yeah, I think it starts with a mentor, right? Or something that we consider like a big mentor that has
yeah,
had an impact in our life and changed completely our mindset. Or that was at
yeah,
least my case. So I was thinking, maybe she has something similar and she maybe wants to mention someone. Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, all right,
Absolutely.
all right.
So I've had there are like three mentors who really stand out for me in terms of life changing impact.
Okay, cool.
Right. Well, of course, I have to start with my grandmother because she, I mean, was the wisest woman that I've known, and just the biggest heart in the world. And
Uh,
she has been the single greatest influence in my life, just with everything,
that's
right?
beautiful.
So,
Uh-huh,
and to have been exposed to her from, as a child coming up, and then I lost her,
uh-huh.
back in 1992. But still
Sorry.
today,
Mm-hmm.
she still has that presence in my life.
Mm, sure.
And then the other two are work related. And so one is the former Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. So that's Dr. Winston Baldwin Spencer. And he believed in me, like I said, and trusted me to do things that I myself had questions, can I do it? But
Uh,
the mere fact that he had the confidence in me caused me to rise to the occasion. So he
uh,
gave me big projects to do, he gave me big responsibility. And I then rose to the occasion because I was highly motivated not to disappoint him,
yeah, I feel you.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the other mentor who has been very impactful in my life is Dr. Janine Kama. And she used to be the executive director at the Cave Hill School of Business. So I did my MBA there. So that's when I first met her. And we went on to become friends and colleagues. And the beautiful gift that Dr. Kama gave and continues to give to me is that she speaks my name in rooms when I'm not present,
Uh, all right,
right?
cool.
Because she has an amazing network. I mean, and she brings me along on her journey by telling others about me, suggesting opportunities for me to showcase my talent, and
Uh,
so that's just it's a tremendous gift,
uh-huh.
and has created so many opportunities for me.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Yes, and what do you do, or what do you think you do for them, because I think sometimes, these mentors pass by, and then we sometimes feel like in debt, or we give it in different ways, right, to other people.
Mhm.
However, I was thinking, I was curious if you do something to have these relationships going on, or I don't know,
Ah,
is
that's
it something?
interesting. And sometimes you just gravitate to a mutual attraction to
That's
someone,
right.
because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not the only person who went through the MBA, but we, like I said, we went from being, like, I was a student in the MBA program, which she ran, to a point where we became friends, we became colleagues. We now, as consultants, we work on projects together. I will recommend her for things, she recommends me for things. Sometimes we do things together,
Uh-huh.
and uh, and we have fun together because we all
Sure.
also party together. So,
It's
right?
important having the mixture, right? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I think it's just kindred spirits.
Uh-huh. It's supporting each other, right? And making grow each other, and
Yeah.
taking care of her, right? It's a true relationship. Uh, that's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's beautiful, I was thinking about that yesterday as well, so I was a bit melancholic, in that sense.
Aw.
So yes, Joan, I don't know where we could go now. I think it will be interesting to see how do you see the future of HR, or what do you think we should be focusing on these days, especially with everything that is going on, right, with
Yeah.
hybrid world, AI now, all this stuff.
Yeah. Listen, the very things, for the reasons that you've listed in terms of just how quickly things are changing, I think the most important thing for us as HR practitioners, the most important competence for us is the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Yeah, right. Totally.
Because we cannot get complacent. We cannot think that, oh, I already did that. I know how to do that. I have it covered.
Mm,
Because the world that we live in now, there's an acronym that we got originally from the military, but it's so relevant, and that's VUCA.
mm,
And VUCA stands for being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Any
mm,
one of those on its own is challenging, but imagine all four together, which is the
uh,
reality of the world in
uh,
which we live now.
definitely.
And so, in order to successfully navigate a VUCA world, we have to be adaptable, we have to be agile, we have to
Mm,
be willing to let go of something that we knew, but which is no longer relevant. So, you mentioned AI,
mm,
right? So, this is such a game changer.
totally. Yeah.
And if we try to resist it, it's just going to roll right over us, right? And I told you, like, I love the beach. I love listening to the beach. I love seeing the beach, but depending on, how rough it is, I don't like going into it,
uh,
because if the tide is high, if the waves are crashing, that can just pick you up and just
mm,
tumble you over and over and over. And that can happen to us as HR practitioners if we
mm,
are not sufficiently agile, if we
mm,
don't know how to move as the ocean moves.
uh,
So that there's ebb and flow, and sometimes it's rough, and we have to be able not to get overwhelmed when that happens, but to be able to flow with the movement of it.
I love it. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. And do you have any practical tips to do that? Because I totally agree. I just was wondering if you have any practical tips for people to actually implement these things.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I think is a given, and if we have professional certification, it sorts of forces us to do it.
Mm,
Just make a commitment to always be learning,
mm,
right? So, in terms of
mm,
continuing education
mm,
and reading, and thank God we live in a knowledge and economy where information is so readily available.
Uh,
right? And for example, like what you do in terms of your podcast, because I have watched a number of your interviews, and for each person you talk to, there's some new perspective. There's even a new way of looking at something that we've all seen before, right?
totally,
And
totally.
so, yeah, to be able to just have an open mind
Uh-huh. Sure.
and to get out of our comfort zone. Because I
Yes.
tell my coaching clients all the time, right? There's no learning, there's no change, there's no growth in your comfort zone.
Mm,
You have to
totally.
get out of the comfort zone in order to learn, to change, to grow. And
Uh-huh.
I get it. It can be scary because right on the horizon of our comfort zone is our fear zone,
Uh,
right? So
Definitely.
you got to feel the fear and do it anyway,
Uh,
right?
Work with the fear.
Yeah,
Collaborate with it.
it will fear will always be a
Yeah.
factor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even for those people with the adrenaline rush, the daredevils,
Uh,
it's not that they don't feel fear, but they use it as a motivator, right? So that the
uh,
excitement is part of what stimulates them to take action. And so it's about not making fear disappear, but changing our relationship, changing our mindset, changing our attitude towards fear.
uh-huh.
And learning to live with it and move through it to
Mm.
get to the learning, change, and growth.
Very good, John. Thank you so much. And regarding this commitment to learn, I was wondering, uh, what is the best, how is the best type of learning that you do? How do you learn most effectively? That was the question, yeah?
Yeah. And will be different for everyone, but I love reading,
Mm.
right? And now I use the technology, so I also love to walk. And
Mm-hmm.
so taking long walks is part of my exercise routine. And I
Okay.
use audiobooks,
Okay.
right?
Nice.
So
Okay.
whenever I'm taking my walks, I'm listening to a book. Sometimes I listen to music, but a lot of times I'll listen to books. So even when I'm driving to work, if I know traffic is going to be bad, I'll just put on one of my audiobooks. And then, so you're constantly getting new information, being exposed to new things. And then, of course, if something piques my interest, then I can go and take a deeper dive and research it some more. But I find podcasts, audiobooks,
Mm-hmm.
are wonderful ways for us to bring the outside in to learn what's going on.
All right, very good. And I'm sure you read a lot about HR, and I was wondering if you had to recommend just one book for HR. Yeah, I know it's difficult. Which one would you choose?
Okay, so I am going to be shameless and I'm going to recommend my own book, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, cool.
So I mentioned that I was a lecturer. I'm also
Uh-huh.
a coach and as a consultant. So I have worked with individuals one on one. I've worked in organization and even national settings.
Uh-huh.
And what I have found is that a lot of really good people struggle a lot to make the transition from being an individual contributor, either technical worker or knowledge worker, to being a manager or a leader. And
Mm,
why does that typically happen? Because if you are good at the job that you do, a lot of times you get rewarded by being promoted to being a supervisor or a manager,
mm,
right?
uh-huh.
And so, yeah, that's good because you get more money, more perks. But the thing is, the competencies that cause you to succeed in your original role are not the same competencies you need to succeed in this new role as manager or leader.
Uh-huh.
And so, a lot of good, capable people get promoted and then struggle.
Sure.
And sometimes they don't want to be vulnerable enough to admit that they're struggling. So they, internalize all of that anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having experienced that in my lecturing, in my coaching, in my consulting, I decided to write a book. And the book is called Manager's First Aid Kit.
Mm,
And it's both literal and a metaphor. So
mm,
in terms of the metaphor, every house should have a first aid kit in it. Why? So that when you have a medical problem, you can treat it before it becomes a big problem.
Mm.
So with this book, you can deal with the challenges, the problems, the anxiety that you're experiencing with the transition before you get overwhelmed with it.
Uh,
So that's the metaphor. And I also use it literally in that I hope it's the first book you reach for when you need help, right? So
very
it's
good.
your first aid that you
Uh,
can turn to.
Thank you
And
so
in
much.
that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It's just we are almost at the end of, well, at the end of the interview. I just
Oh,
wanted to see if you can share the best practical tip from your book, if that's okay.
okay. So the best practical tip from my book is that begin by learning to manage yourself before you seek to manage anyone else or
Mm,
anything else. And
mm,
we touched on emotional intelligence before.
yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
that is where you begin with emotional intelligence, self awareness, self regulation, and then you can start to focus on how you interact with others.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful, Joan. Thank you so much. I could talk with you for hours, really. I just wanted to know if there is any last words that we haven't mentioned or something that you want to mention before we call it off.
Yeah, and people have different faith perspectives, and for myself, there's a passage of scripture that has motivated me, encouraged me, and it's this: I can
Yes.
do all things through
Uh-huh.
Christ who strengthens me. Not some things, not the easy things, but I can do all things. And I encourage everyone to choose to believe that
Mm,
you can do all things
I
if
love
you
it.
believe in yourself and set your mind to it and you have that source of faith.
Thank you so much. I don't think there is anything to add to that. Thank you so much, Giovanni. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for your time and sharing.
And
So talk
thank
to
you,
you next.
Yoshi, for having me.
Thank you, John.